Let's take a look at some of these very, very basic questions. These are just kind of concept questions to make sure that we understand some of the mechanics behind traditional and activity-based costing. So this first question, it says, if the activities causing overhead costs, overhead, are different across different departments and products, use of a plant-wide factory overhead rate will. So anytime you see plant-wide, that essentially means we are talking about one overhead rate. So if activities causing overhead costs vary across different departments and products, use of a plant-wide overhead factory rate will do what? Okay, so choice A says average out across departments. I'm actually not sure what this answer means. I just know that it is wrong, because the cost for each department will not average out with anything. The cost for each department are the cost for that department. So, incorrect answer. Choice B, be in accordance with U.S. GAAP. Well, that is not the point of what we are talking about. Ultimately, the reporting of these costs would be in accordance with U.S. GAAP, but I guess the way to put this would be the fact that we have different overhead costs across different departments and products. A single plant-wide factory overhead rate will not in and of itself be in accordance with U.S. GAAP. So that's going to be wrong. Although I could make a case where technically that one might be true. C, cause distorted product costs. This is going to be our correct answer. So I guess the moral of the story here is to make sure that we always choose the best answer. Let's just look at choice D real quick. It says only work in industries heavily dependent on direct labor. Well, that is, the key word here is only. It will work, actually, in industries heavily dependent on labor. It will also work in industries heavily dependent on machine hours. So only is too restrictive. Let's look at the second question. It says using multiple department factory overhead rates instead of a single plant-wide factory overhead rate, what? Well, let's just take a look at these from the bottom up. Let's see here. Applies overhead cost to all departments equally. Well, this is potentially true if we have the exact same activity across all departments, but assuming that we do not have that, this would be an incorrect answer. Let me just read this question again. Using multiple department factory overhead, I'm going to insert the word rates here. Okay, let's work our way up. Choice C, it says, is simpler and less expensive to compute than a plant-wide rate. Well, that is the opposite. Activity-based costing is more time-consuming and it costs more money. Results in distorted product costs. This is also incorrect. When we use multiple department factory overhead rates instead of a single plant-wide rate, we get fewer distorted costs. So results in more accurate product costs is our correct answer. All right, let's look at the third one. It says, which of the following are the two most common allocation bases for factory overhead? Let's see here. A, total overhead dollars and machine hours. Well, this one is right, this one is wrong. Direct labor hours and machine hours. That is going to be our correct answer. This was part of the presentation. Okay. Activity cost pools are actions that take place in an administrative setting within a manufacturing company. Okay, well, they're not actions. Activity cost pools may or may not take place in an administrative setting, but they're not actions, so that is wrong. Choice B, cost accumulations associated with a given activity. This is going to be our correct answer, choice B. Okay, so when we talk about what are these cost accumulations, these are our pools, such as the purchasing department or the machining department, okay, etc. So B is a correct answer. All right, activity-based costing replaces a traditional costing process when appropriate. This is never the truth. Requires the use of a single predetermined overhead rate. This is incorrect. It requires multiple rates for varying activities depending on the number of cost drivers. Allocates overhead to multiple activity cost pools. This is our correct answer. Review the PowerPoint slide if you disagree with me. Let's see here. May be inappropriate if there's a lack of correlation. Okay. They're going with something here that has to do with traditional costing rather than activity-based costing. All right, let's look at this last question on the page just so we can get it done. It says, what's our question? It says, Pinnacle's plant-wide factory overhead rate for the current year is, okay, so Pinnacle budgeted $700,000 of overhead costs for the current year. Actual overhead costs were $650,000. Pinnacle's plant-wide allocation base, machine hours, was budgeted at 100,000 hours. Actual machine hours were only 80,000. And a total of 100,000 units was budgeted to be produced, and 98,000 units were actually produced. Pinnacle's plant-wide factory overhead rate, so this is traditional costing for the current year, is, well, we're always going to start here with our budgeted overhead, and that is $700,000. We are using machine hours, and we budgeted them at 100,000 hours. Our predetermined plant-wide factory overhead rate is $7.